The Scranton Fringe Festival and the Center for Living City present Observe Scranton StorySlam with Mayor Paige Gephardt Cognetti, Amber Viola, Gerard Hetman, Maureen Gray, Jessica Rothschild, Monica Simon, Chris Kelly, Alicia Nordstrom, Glennis Johns, Maria McDonald, and music by the Justin Pedro Trio. Recorded live at the Radisson Hotel in downtown Scranton. And now, here's your host, Connor Kelly O'Brien.
My name is Connor Kelly O'Brien. I am going to be your MC for the evening. I have been heavily involved in the Observe Scranton Festival. I am also the co-founder and executive director of Scranton Fringe. I'll do all of the other thank yous and bowing and scraping to everyone who gave us a few dollars momentarily. But before we go any further, we're going to be welcoming to the stage to give our official opening remarks the mayor of Scranton. Please put it together for Paige Cognetti. I'm going to do that one more time. Please put it together for the mayor of Scranton, Paige Cognetti.
Oh my gosh. Liz offered me a drink at the bar, and I looked at her like she was speaking in a language I'd never heard in my life. So, what? We can have a drink together? Oh my God. Now, of course, I declined because there's an election in 9 days, and God forbid someone see me with an alcoholic beverage, and that would, be terrible. So, and the press is here. Chris is in the stands, so we wouldn't want to give you any fodder, right, Chris? But I am so excited. This has been such a wonderful week. Maureen just came up and told me that she had a great weekend downtown. It's just so fun to see everyone and to feel like we're coming over the edge of this thing. As we know, there's a long way to go. We still need to help encourage our friends, neighbors, and loved ones who haven't gotten vaccinated to get vaccinated. I'm sure everyone in this crowd has gotten their vaccine if they're eligible. And thanks to all of the healthcare workers who are helping make that happen. Tony-Ann, I'm looking at you. We're keeping doing it, but it's it's not completely over. We still have to do that. There's a lot of hesitancy. A lot of young people, a lot of college-age kids are not wanting to get it, so we need to keep encouraging folks. But it really feels so good downtown this weekend. On Tuesday, we kicked off Observe Scranton with Glenna Lang. She presented me her book with the inscription that is going to make me cry for the rest of my days, celebrating. Glenna, hi! Oh my gosh, you're here! I didn't even know you were here. Celebrating Jane Jacobs and keying off of Glenna's book, celebrating the city that we have, the fact that she grew up here and then took the things that she observed to New York City to help save those neighborhoods. She took that vision of being part of the sidewalk ballet, but the sidewalk ballet isn't just something you watch, it's something that you play into, something that you help nurture. You help your neighbor, you help your friend, you help your family, you help those that are down. That's the spirit of Scranton. That's what we do here every single day. So to celebrate this week, and Glenna, thank you again for what you do. Maria McDonald in the Center for the Living City at Marywood. Oh my gosh, all the students at Marywood who have put so much into this, the glasses on the county square are so cool. We just always do it right here in Scranton, and I'm honored every single day to be your mayor. And hello, Mayor Evans and Nancy, how are you? It's just really such a cool community. And I'm not able to stay tonight. I'm sorry, I gotta go get back to my baby who misses me very, very much. It's been a long couple of days, but I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled for all of you. I see Amber in the audience. I'm sorry I'm gonna miss your story. Hello, my love. And I look forward to having many stories and drinks with you as the summer goes on. Let's make this the best summer that Scranton has ever seen.
Can we also give a round of applause for our wonderful musicians? Justin, Nathaniel, Joe, everyone, they'll be entertaining you for the rest of the evening as well. Or at least until the bar runs out. Oh my God, this is going to be so much fun. Okay, I want to go over, for those of you that aren't familiar, who's ever been to a StorySlam before? Raise your hand. Ooh, nice. For those of you that are StorySlam virgins, it is a true storytelling head-to-head competition. All stories must be true. They must be first-hand experiences. They are told in approximately 5 to 7 or so minutes. We might be a little liberal tonight. Storytellers, a reminder, when you come to the stage, you can take your mask off. You'll be using this wonderful microphone, which will be sanitized between use. At 5 minutes, you will hear At 6 minutes, you will hear. And at 7, 8, or 9 minutes, you will hear. And they'll just completely play you off. We are here to celebrate the life legacy of Jane Jacobs, and more importantly, the values that she promoted, the values that she believed in, that we are trying to put here into the city of Scranton. We're going to be bringing up to the stage the director of the Living City in a little bit later tonight. You're fine. But I want to give a very special round of applause to an unsung hero from Marywood University and the executive director of the Living City who made this all possible, Miss Maria McDonald. I want to also thank, I'm not calling you up yet. I'm not calling you up yet. I'll call you up later. You're good. I want to thank our sponsors and everyone who made tonight possible, especially the Hawk Family Foundation, I love your chocolate, Marywood University, the Architectural Heritage, it's literally the same people, the Architectural Heritage Association, Lace Village, AIA, Northeast Pennsylvania, the Scranton Life Building, Miss Glenna Lang, the Center for the Living City, Scranton Fringe, of course, the Radisson Hotel, and everyone in between who made this all possible. Are you ready to hear some stories? Our first storyteller is no stranger to the stage, veteran, activist, leader, and the human resources director for the city of Scranton, the one, the only, the superb Miss Amber Viola.
Hello, everyone. So, when I left NEPA, when I was leaving the area, I was full of hope and optimism, and of course, I was leaving and never coming back. The weather is bad, it's always cold, we grew up in a small town, but as you guys can see, I came back. So when I moved back to the area, I left Virginia. I was stationed there for about 6 years, and I moved back home to Scranton. And instead of being full of optimism and hope, I was full of pessimism, inability, and shame. I was moving back with a baby, a dog, getting divorced, leaving the military, and trying to somehow not be a total hot mess. It didn't really turn out that way. The first thing I did was I went to Marywood University. I started school the very next day after I moved into my house. Of course, it was a very snowy, cold Scranton day. Like always, the weather did not mention snow, which is obviously why I picked that day as my moving day. But nonetheless, it was snowing and cold, and whoever was scheduling my life did a terrible job because I was just busy right off the bat. My first issue was, what am I going to wear to school? I was 30-something years old. If you've ever been in the military, know military people, we have 3 outfits. We have a uniform, we have sweatpants, or things you can go to the gym or lounge around the house, and also we have club clothing or to party. So I was like, all right, I need business casual or something, but do you wear business casual to school? And I wanted to look presentable and stylish, and also I'm a mom, so what am I gonna wear? I had a few moms in some of my classes when I was there. They were real moms, intelligent, responsible, they drove a minivan, they had it all together. One mom came to class and she had on mismatched socks. I was like, all right, so that's not gonna be me, guys. I'm not gonna wear the mismatched socks. I'm not just gonna wear running shoes every day. I wanna be a cool mom, right? But I don't wanna wear a crop top at 8 o'clock in the morning either. So I had to figure that out. Then I had to figure out how was I gonna make friends. I wasn't hanging out on campus. I wasn't hanging out between classes because I had a 1-year-old baby, and I would leave class and I'd run to the daycare and nurse and then run back to class. So it was pretty chaotic, What do I talk to people about who are 18 years old? Nobody knew that I was in my 30s, black don't crack. So, so I didn't look like I was in my 30s, but I knew, So how was I gonna make friends with people? Hey, do you wanna come to my house and hang out with my kid and my dog? So then I was like, all right, well, I'm a veteran. So what does that mean? How do you veteran? you know. And how do you veteran as a millennial, right? I didn't want to do the hat. I didn't want to wear the shirts. I didn't want to have all the flair, you know. I didn't need to do all that. But I wanted people to know that, you know, I served 8 years in the United States Navy. Thank you. And I was proud of my service, but at the same time, I was exhausted. I didn't want anything at all to do with the military. I just wanted to go about my life and go about my business. Well, I got involved because I'm a volunteer. You know, I raise my hand when people say, hey, who wants to do this? It's crazy, and sometimes you end up doing terrible things, but there's times that you end up doing really awesome things at the same time. So I found my people. I found where I belonged. You know, when I was moving back, people always talk about this is home. You know, this is where you come back with your tail between your legs. And that's what I did. I was going through a nasty separation and divorce. I was a broke college student. You know, even though I had a job for the past 8 years, at that time now I don't have a job. So I'm unemployed. I'm a single mom, so I'm like every stereotype that you can, you know, known to man that was terrible. But I found people that made me feel safe. I found people that made me feel comforted. I found people who were willing to help me out when I needed help. And I found my safety basket, you know. And that's Scranton. And that's what everybody kept telling me was Scranton, but I needed to find it for myself, and I didn't find it. I don't know if you guys know, but veteran suicide is an epidemic. 22 vets a day kill themselves, give or take. You know, I'm the face of what veteran suicide could look like. And the reason that I'm standing here today is because not just of my family, not just of my friends, but because of this wonderful, wonderful community. So thank you, Marywood, for making me feel at home, and thank you, Scranton, for taking your prodigal daughter and letting her come back home with her tail between her legs. So once I graduated, I was filled with activism, with passion, and with a lot of Scranton pride. Thank you.
Okay. Well, okay. I wanted to mention at this point in the evening that our storytellers were carefully curated and invited and selected for various reasons. First of all, they're all incredibly sexy and attractive. Secondly, every one of them, through their profession, their life journey, their career, emulates some representational value from the life of Jane Jacobs. Journalism, activism, city planning, writing. We are so thrilled to have each and every single one of our storytellers here tonight. And that trend continues with our next storyteller. Where is he? Is he nearby? There he is. Please welcome to the stage one of the most lovely human beings you can ever meet, an active member of the Lackawanna County community from NeighborWorks of Northeast Pennsylvania. Please welcome Gerard Hetman.
Is this thing on? All right. Connor, I don't know about the incredibly attractive and sexy part. I think I'm the outsider on that one, but it's all good. So, good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. Lots of familiar faces I see in the crowd, and also a lot of new faces. So, this is a good one. I'm used to speaking in front of elected officials. So, for these guys, this crowd, this is a much more welcoming, friendly crowd here, although I've spoken in front of some of you before like that. So, my story deals with that phrase, all roads lead to Scranton, and how our city connects us so many different ways to different people we've known before, people that we meet that are new in our lives, and especially sometimes people from around the world who come here because they have a connection that you weren't aware of before. So, for those of you who know me, you know that I've been an active member for over a decade now in the Rotary Club of Scranton. And our club is part of Rotary International, which is an international service and fellowship organization founded in 1905 back in Chicago, and encompasses more than 1 million members around the world today and 36,000 Rotary clubs. Wherever you go, you can pretty much find a Rotary club in any corner of the world. Our club here in Scranton started in 1914. We were club number 101. out of 36,000 clubs today, and we've got a really active, rich history of service. So one of the fun things about Rotary is whenever you travel somewhere and you meet someone, or whenever someone travels to your community and they meet you, you instantly connect with them through your experience in Rotary. And no matter how illustrious they are, no matter how famous they are or what they do for work, you're automatically in that same plane of service, and you can feel a connection with them just right off the bat and puts you at ease, and you really enjoy it. So, October of 2013, I was fortunate to be part of a small group that I think was organized by Bob Savakinis and the folks at the Lackawanna Historical Society to welcome a gentleman who at that time was the Minister of Defense for the Republic of Lithuania. His name was Dr. I think it was Zukos Olekas. I can never pronounce his name, and I'm a quarter Lithuanian. I never got the hang of it. But a very impressive man, actually a medical doctor. He had been the health minister of Lithuania twice before he was the defense minister. In small countries, the talented people wear many hats. And the cool thing about him, and what brought him to Scranton, was his grandmother had been born in Scranton back in 1904. Her family was one of many, along with some of my ancestors, who came to Scranton from Eastern Europe looking to build a new life. And unlike my family, his grandmother and her family traveled back to the old country to start a life in Lithuania, which would have been in 1914. And over the many decades after that, as we know, Eastern Europe went through much political turbulence, and his family had been moved and relocated and had gone through all kind of hardships over the decades before Lithuania gained its independence. So here he was coming back. He was in Washington, D.C. for a NATO defense summit that week, and on his day off, he wanted to come up and visit the home that his grandmother had lived in as a child, and that he had heard of all these years growing up in Lithuania under Soviet rule and trying to preserve the independence of Lithuania. He'd always heard these stories about this great place called Scranton. So it was a pleasure to be there with him, to be able to welcome him to the city. It was so humbling. So after this brief ceremony, the group took him up to Seidel's restaurant in North Scranton, a great place. I wanted to take him into the Tourist Club. How can you not take the Lithuanian Minister of Defense into the Tourist Club? Come on, I've got my card right here in my wallet. We got to buy him a beer at the Tourist Club, please. So we went to Seidel's, again, great establishment, and had a great lunch. And I was going up to close out my bill, and the minister was getting a drink at the bar. He had his aide-de-camp there and his staff from the embassy, so he didn't have to drive, so he was getting a drink at the bar. And I had my Rotary pin on my shirt, because earlier that day I was at an event for another Rotary club in our area. And the minister saw my pin on, he pointed to me in this thick Lithuanian accent and said, "Are you in Rotary?" I was flabbergasted, and because normally friends that don't know me or people that don't know me through Rotary don't always recognize when I have my Rotary pin. And I said, "Well, yes, Minister, I am." And he said, "That's wonderful. I've been in Rotary Club of Vilnius for 20-some years." And the guy just had a connection with me right there. And I thought, again, here's this man who, from what I gathered, was almost one of the founding fathers of modern Lithuania. He's a medical doctor and a cabinet-level official, and he spends every day commanding troops that stare down the Russian bear across the border in Russia. And he's connecting with me here in Scranton through Rotary. So he called his aide over, and he actually gave me this little pin that you can still see here is the emblem of the Lithuanian Defense Ministry, I believe. So it was so kind, and I was just really thankful that he was able to talk to me one-on-one just through the connection of Rotary, and that he had a connection through Scranton, through our community. It just goes to show you, no matter where you go in the world, that so many people recognize and appreciate and sometimes have an unknown connection to our little corner of the world. So you never know where Scranton leads to. Oftentimes it comes right back to you wherever you may go. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's my story, and hope you enjoy the rest of the stories.
She is the executive director of the Northeast Pennsylvania Youth Shelter. She has a heart bigger than anything you could imagine. She has done more for our community, it's particularly our youth, who are so often displaced unnecessarily, unfairly, unjustly, and she makes a haven for them where they can not only be safe, but grow and thrive. It is my immense pleasure this evening to welcome to the stage Maureen Gray.
I've never had a musical intro. That's really awesome. Maybe when I'm done. Okay, play me off. Good evening, everybody. I'm really honored to be here. Thanks. Have you ever started a project that's taken you weeks and weeks to put together, and you've worked your ass off to get there? And when it's finally done, do you ask yourself, is this going to be worth it? And that's the way I felt when I opened my teen center on October 30th, 2017. We had spent, thank you. We had spent weeks and weeks painting, ripping up carpet, putting down carpet, assembling furniture, and for many of you, hustling donations, okay? And if teens came, I wanted to make sure it was a welcoming, warm space. I wanted to create an opportunity to build safe, I think Amber mentioned safe relationships with our teens, so that when they were in crisis, they would know that we were safe adults to come to. And they did come. Our first week, we had 6 kids. Our second week, we had 20. And after that, we had more kids each and every week. And we got to know each other. We shared our triumphs and our disasters. We had parties and celebrations. And we laughed a lot. And we also had some tears. And I was wondering, are the seeds that we planted taking root? Maybe so. I need to digress here for a brief moment to tell you about my own family and why family is so important to me. I come from a traditional mom and dad family. My parents were married for 55 years, and they had trouble conceiving. So being the wonderful Catholics that they were, they set up a novena to St. Jude, the patron saint of hopeless causes. And a few weeks later, my mom found out she was pregnant with my older brother. And his middle name is Jude, no surprise, right? The doctors told my mom she probably wouldn't be able to have any more children. And my parents wanted a big family. God knows why, but they did. So they turned to adoption agencies. My biological mother was a 19-year-old young woman who was sent to live with her aunt until I was born. And 2 months later, my parents signed the official documents and I was officially theirs. Now, the next thing that happened, if you're a religious person, you might call it a miracle. Within 2 months of my coming home, my mom found out she was pregnant again. And she had my sister. And my sister and I are born in the same calendar year. And if you're Irish, you already know this. We were Irish twins. And we were made to dress alike until we were 9 or 10 years old. Yeah. And we don't look anything alike. She's 5'9", red hair, blue eyes. Yeah, that was hilarious. Then, a couple of years later, the same adoption agency called my parents. They had a beautiful baby girl that had been abandoned by her mother in the hospital when she was born. And it had taken the court well over a year to sever that parent-child relationship, and now she was available for adoption. But she was too old to be adopted. Couples wanted new babies. So they asked my parents if they would adopt this young baby. She was about 18 months, and my parents said, "You betcha." Now we have 4 kids. A couple of years after that, my parents adopted a boy because I think my older brother was overwhelmed by his 3 chatty sisters. So then we got our little brother. But karma, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it, had something else in mind. A couple of years later, an adoption agency called my parents, and they had a beautiful baby boy who was believed to be mixed race, and nobody wanted him. And would my parents consider adopting a potentially mixed race child? They couldn't get to the lawyer's office fast enough. And now they had their big family, 3 girls, 3 boys. We were the Brady Bunch, okay? Marsha, okay? And the reason why I tell this story is that our family came together from strangers, willing to sacrifice something to make a family. And my whole childhood, I never felt that our parents treated us differently. If one of us got in trouble, all 6 of us got in trouble. If one of us had something to celebrate, all 6 of us had something to celebrate. And so that sense of family comes from the sense of security and belongingness that I felt growing up. And I wanted to bring that to my teens. So now back to my story. Okay, and I heard the bell. Okay, so we have a lot of blank wall space in our center, and we have a lot of kids who love to do art. And we have one room that has a beautiful rainbow made out of handprints of all the kids. And the other wall is blank. And one day the kids asked, can we paint on the blank wall? I always want to encourage them to explore their talents and skills, so I said, sure, but don't spill any paint on the carpet. Okay? So the first few days, I would try to go in, and they would say, no, don't come in. We want to show you when we're done. Okay, so a week goes by, and nothing's coming out, and I'm listening at the door, and I'm hearing conversations about form, shape, color. Oops, there goes paint on the carpet. I also, about midway through the second week, they opened the door and they all came out with paint splattered on them. And I was terrified about what I was going to find in that room. I tried to tempt them with tasty treats and decadent chocolate to let me have a little peek, but they were determined not to let me in. Finally, 2 weeks later, they invited me into the room to show me what they had painted. When I walked in, the smell of paint and body odor and teen boy feet struck me very oddly, and I kind of gagged a little bit. I started to examine the artwork on the wall, but I realized I needed to take a step back to see the whole picture on the wall. They had written their names, their Instagram handles, their nicknames, the class of 20 rules, the proverbial Roderick was here, and a really bad pot leaf. Okay? I said, I don't know who painted this, but pot is not a fern. Okay? So, and they were shocked, right? Oh my God, she knows what a hot leaf looks like. But then, suddenly, my eyes started to tear up and I got a catch in my throat. There was a tree in the middle of the wall. And the tree had been painted to look kind of grizzled and old, and it had clusters of leaves on the branches. And the branches were broken, some of them. They had painted a very simple phrase in the middle of the tree, the Center Familia. And I knew in that instant, everything we had worked for, everything we had spent all of our time and energy on was worth it. They felt like a family, and I had achieved my goal. When I walk into that room, now my heart soars. I think about the pride that they had as they saw what they accomplished. And I don't know that they know how important that tree is to me, but maybe they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Seriously, thank you. And judges, you can shut your ears for a second because I don't want this to bias you. The work that all of our storytellers do is so important, but the work that you do is so important. It's literally our future, and we thank you so much. Can we talk about how America's like that really problematic boyfriend that your friend has? That really problematic, right. Where it's kind of like, and you really love her, and you really love your friend, or him, or them, whatever, and you really love them, and you're like, oh, she's great. We don't really talk about her boyfriend that much. Oh my God, she brought 20 dozen cupcakes to the bake sale. I think her boyfriend's a white supremacist, but we don't really talk about it. Whatever. There's one in this room. Okay. Okay. Speaking of breaking ground and not centering, the standard. Yes, I am. Please, I want to welcome someone to the stage who not only serves you here in the city of Scranton as a council member, puts their money where their mouth is the first openly LGBTQ elected official in Lackawanna County. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Jessica Rothschild!
All right, good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight, and up until now I've usually been out here for parade day, so there's a little different feel today. I didn't have any drinks, I'm breastfeeding, so so when I first decided to run for Scranton City Council, I never imagined that I'd become this big gay icon, right? And I say that jokingly. Up until now, it's been a little inside joke with my friends, and when I say it, they roll their eyes, especially my wife. But I think I say it because I'm still just in disbelief that I'm here today, that I get to serve our city on council, and that I was able to become the first openly LGBTQ member. And so I want to tell you a little bit about that story tonight and how I got there. When we had started back in, I think it was like mid-January of 2019, I had prepared myself a lot for the campaign. One of the parts of that process was preparing for the worst and just anticipating that there could be attacks based on me being a lesbian and married to a woman. So I wanted to just think through how we might respond to that. And then for the Democratic primary throughout those next 5 months, I had nothing but positivity throughout our campaign. It was an amazing experience. And I didn't hide who I was. Some people may have thought that I ran on being gay, but I didn't. I was just open about who I was, and it could have been something as simple as going to knock on doors and explaining who I was and introducing myself and saying, my wife and I live in the Hill section and we love Scranton and we want to make sure everyone else loves Scranton too. And no one even batted an eye. It wasn't an issue. No one approached me about it. And when that election day came on May 21st of 2019, out of the 4 candidates, including one incumbent council member, I became the top vote getter. I won, right? We did it. I actually won. And we had worked so hard through those months, and it was amazing experience, and we were feeling really great. We still had a general election to go to, and about a week or two after the primary, a friend called me up and said that someone had come to one of the council meetings, and a local resident who spoke out against me winning the election, and saying that they were going to do everything in their power to keep me from winning in the general. And they said some pretty terrible things about me being gay, obviously. And one of the things was that I was going to turn the whole city gay. Did that happen? Are you all gay yet? Good, yeah? All right, good. Then we met the goal. They told me to, watch the video. They were so upset they couldn't even say like what had happened. And, we watched the video. The video ended up going viral on social media, and I just had this overwhelming support from the public. It was incredible. And when the messages started flooding in, I think it was a Sunday, and I was like, oh, okay, this is great. We should come up with a response from our campaign. And we did. And the next day I went to work, and I'm a physical therapist, so I'm stretching, a patient's shoulder or their knee, and my phone's vibrating in my pocket nonstop with continued messages and calls from media, and it became a really big thing. I couldn't go anywhere for months without being instantly recognized, and having people approach me and say, "Oh, don't worry about that person. It's you keep doing what you're doing," and just really a lot of support and encouragement. And I was receiving messages from people saying that they used to live in Scranton, or they're from Scranton, and they're part of the LGBTQ community, but they don't live here anymore. And maybe if I was around when they were here, then they still would live here. They'd want to be a part of Scranton. So messages like that really meant a lot. And I just wanted to work so much harder for the general election. So then when it came down to the general in November, guess what? We won again. And now I get to be here on council. And I think the experience made me love Scranton even more, which I didn't think was possible. So thank you for having me.
Sir, you have given a standing ovation to every storyteller. I want to. What's your name? What's your name? Anthony. Wonderful, Anthony. Where are you from? You're from Scranton? Oh my gosh! What neighborhood do you live in? No one's perfect. Okay, so I want to ask a quick question. Based on the theme observing Scranton, raise your hand if you think you'd have a story to tell this evening. There's one lonely soul in the back. All right, well, I'm going to be talking to you in a minute because we do have a wild card slot, so come see me this intermission. My friends, here's the deal. Couple things. I want to mention one more thing. This event could not have been possible without the wonderful support of our sponsors, the Center for the Living City, our musicians, Electric City Television, Chris Bolton and Mary Francis recording this wonderful event. We want to thank them. If you are able to donate, there is a yellow bucket up at the ticket table. We would appreciate your donations. No amount is too small. We have yet to see an amount that is too large. We really, 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 really would appreciate your kind support. You can tip the musicians. We have paid them, not a lot, but they could use more. We really appreciate it. We don't trust them. I'm kidding. We want to thank you all so much. Wear your mask, go to the bar. We're back in 10 minutes for more stories. 10 minutes. Please don't go away. Thank you. So during intermission, we had a handful of people approach me and approach our team about being a wild card. We pulled up the good old Google, we found a randomizer, and we have our wild card. They are already aware, we wanted to make them known. But our wild card, unplanned, spontaneous storyteller for the evening, telling a true firsthand, 100% firsthand experience in the city of Scranton under the theme Observing Scranton. Please welcome to the stage, artist in the active community, Monica Simon. Give it up.
When I tell you this is unplanned, I literally didn't wash my hair, which I don't need to tell you, but that's how unplanned this is. But I really was struck by the theme, and I wanted to share this story, so thank you for having me and everyone else who told their story. In 2014, I was in a really, really bad place, mentally and emotionally, and I wasn't living in Scranton. I was actually living in Philadelphia. And I did what most people do when they graduate college and they try to get out of here. And I wanted to make my way in the world, and I loved Philadelphia. It was great. But what I found quickly after moving is that I had a very hard time complying with life without my support system and my familiar surroundings. Now I know that I have ADHD, and I was undiagnosed, but at the time I didn't know that. The only thing I knew is that I was struggling to eat and down to 96 pounds, had a lot of depression and anxiety. And after months and months of hearing me cry on the phone, my parents finally said, I think it's time for you to come home. We're a little worried about you out there. So I was bummed. I didn't really want to come back to Scranton. There was a guy in Philadelphia that I thought I loved. And the happy ending is that we didn't wind up together. But I did come back, and I did find that being with my family was very helpful. But a few weeks after I got back, it was July 25th, and my parents had gone away for the week. My poor parents finally just took a week for themselves, and lo and behold, I stopped eating, drank a lot, smoked a lot of cigarettes, and found myself with my head against the wall and a knife in my hand, threatening suicide. So it was at that time that I did reach out to a therapist, and they said, you need to go to the hospital. And I was like, I think I'm gonna go shopping. And they're like, no, that's not gonna solve this. So I did go to the hospital, and I found myself at CMC, and that was a really scary time for me because I never pictured myself as the kind of person that would end up in the hospital. And I learned a lot that week about real problems, and I'm not saying that mine weren't real. I'm just saying that I met people who, like a woman whose daughter did commit suicide that week, or another woman whose son murdered somebody, and I learned so much from those people that I feel blessed that I was there, so I'm not ashamed. But I did realize that I wanted to get better, and I declared that my Independence Day. So from that time forward, every year on July 25th, I would celebrate my life and the fact that I still had it. And the whole next year was filled with a lot of appointments with nutritionists and psychiatrists and therapists, and it was wonderful and terrible all at once, but I was able to get myself to a healthy place, which was another blessing. So about a year or two, it was 2 years after, in 2016, I was thinking about that day, and it was earlier, like I said, that day was July 25th, so this was earlier in the spring, and I kept thinking, how can I celebrate that day? I just really want to celebrate that day. So I had this crazy idea, and there's not a lot of great things about ADHD, but one of them is you get a lot of ideas. And I got the idea and followed through on it that I was going to create a Facebook group, and it was going to be an event, and it was called Be Kind Scranton. Thank you. And I said in the event, my story, and I admitted to how I wanted to commit suicide, and I didn't, and how I ended up in the hospital, and I never expected to be in the local paper for anything, let alone my suicide attempt, but that's fine, it's all good. And I was so struck by the way people shared it and supported it. I received so many messages from people pouring their hearts out about things that they had gone through and the way they felt the same. And the idea for the day literally was just that I wanted people to do an act of kindness in my name if they could, which is a little bit selfish, but I just wanted to celebrate kindness on the day I almost lost my life. And I figured that even though it was scary to share my story, and it's scary tonight, I thought that it was important because I was still alive to share it. So, thank you. So that day, people came downtown, and a lot of people showed up, people I knew, people I didn't, and we wrote with chalk a lot of positive affirmations and hung signs, and people were beeping their horns, and it was really amazing. But the most amazing part was that this woman came up to me who I did not know, and she was crying. She gave me a hug and said that I understood her. And it's amazing when a stranger comes and tells you that you understand them when you've never met them. And so I start crying, and it was a very beautiful moment that I felt made the whole thing worth it. And what I observed is that this community is quite honestly amazing, because in a lot of places you can be ostracized for mental health, and you can feel the stigma of doing something like wanting to commit suicide. But in this community, I didn't feel that. Instead, people were actually willing to get on board and celebrate the fact that I was still alive. So that's what I will always love about Scranton. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Monica. Oh my gosh, telling that story last minute. Thank you so much. Okay, we are moving along with our story tonight. Our next storyteller is no stranger to the public spotlight. In fact, he willingly puts himself into the printed paper and on your social media pages to anger, to tell your opinions in all capitalization, or at least your aunt does from German. Please welcome someone you may only know as a two-dimensional artistic character, but is in fact a three-dimensional, real-life human being. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. Christopher Kelly.
Hello. So I'd like to thank all the other storytellers that have been up here tonight. We've heard some really inspiring stories, and I hope you're all ready for a change of pace. I do get paid to observe Scranton. It's a pretty great job, and had many stories I could have told tonight. At least one that got shot down, which was the right thing. Thank you for that, Colin. And so, what I will say. So this story that I'm about to tell really could only happen here. So, scene. A ballet teacher in a wheelchair inexplicably finds herself in the middle of a skating rink. She is there teaching a young woman, one of her ballet students, how to figure skate like a spider. Stay with me here. And judging by the woman's just unintelligible accent, she is either she's either French or heavily sedated. Probably both. And she says, "You must become the spider." She says to the young woman, "You must be a leggy monstrosity." Right? So the girl, she already has a lot on her mind. Her parents are splitting up, and in a recent fight, her father screamed at her mother, "You are like a mad cow in a monkey field." Yeah, mad cow in a monkey field, that's what he said. Worse yet, dad is sleeping with the boy next door, and one morning the young woman wakes up to find that she has been painted gold from head to toe, and nobody knows why. And it doesn't matter. Now, I ask you, would you pay money to see a movie with all of these absurdities and more? Yes, right? Me too. So I ask you to join me in my crusade to make The Trouble with Callie the cinematic embarrassment we can all be proud of. Right? All right. For those of you, well, you know, we need to, we'll get there. You all know Paul Sorvino, right? And Paul Sorvino, he was in Goodfellas. He plays mobsters, and apparently thinks playing a mobster makes him one. He years ago convinced the county commissioners that it'd be a great idea to invest $500,000 in Lackawanna County taxpayer money to make a movie called The Trouble with Callie, and it was written by his daughter, not Mira, who actually plays the ballet teacher in the wheelchair. But I think her name was Amanda, and you've never heard of her, and you never will again. But you know, I thought it'd be a great idea. I'll make this movie, everybody will love it, and you know, taxpayers will make a lot of money off the investment. It'd be great. It's just a great idea. And of course, we at the newspaper thought, no, it's a really bad idea, and did everything we could to discourage it. But the commissioners went along and did it anyway. So, so we're like, well, now, you know, the people of Lackawanna County are investors in this project, and so we might as well do our best to promote it and, you know, make sure it gets done right. Now, there's this little thing called a completion bond. Has anybody ever heard of that? Of course not. It's ridiculous. Anyway, it's this thing that, you know, if you were like a small video store and you're a video company and you're going to make a commercial for a local sporting goods store, there's this thing you have to sign called a completion bond, which says that you will produce a commercial. It doesn't have to be good, but it has to be a commercial. You got to produce one. Well, the commissioners never made Paulie sign one of those. So he spent the money and never finished the damn movie. And so we're out the money. We don't know what's going on, and we don't. And he just kind of fell out of communication with us. So I took it upon myself, and others at the newspaper did too, to begin a campaign to shame him into finishing the film. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. A lot of you guys seemed to like it. So it turned into this thing. It went viral, and it became an international scandal for him. And it was easy to ignore when he was just, you know, it was just us here in Scranton, but it was in like the international press, and it was on TMZ, and it was everywhere he went. And so he was really upset about that, and he reacted like, you know, he reacted to that like a mafia don. And, you know, one day does anybody here watch The Sopranos? Any Sopranos fans? Right, The Sopranos and Furio, right? Furio, Tony's bodyguard / enforcer, right? One day I'm at work and I get a call from Furio. Seriously, Furio. Well, you know, Federico Castelluccio, the guy who played him, but he's a very close personal friend with Paul Sorvino. And he called me up and he said, Mr. Kelly, I'm very disappointed in the things that you said about my friend, Paul Sorvino. A great man. I'm asking you nicely to stop. And I'm like, yes, this is amazing. So I let him go on for a few more beats, and I was like, yeah, Mr. Castelluccio, I'm a big Sopranos fan, and I love Furio, but you do understand that that's a fictional character that you played on a TV show. You're an actor, not a hitman. So this really isn't all that intimidating. And in fact, it's really awesome fodder for me to torture Paul Sorvino with, which I did. But eventually, Paulie finished the film. He actually finished it, and so I flew out to Sedona, Arizona, for the world premiere. And you may remember, I flew out there, and a couple hours before the screening, I interviewed Paul and his son Michael, who was also in the film, about it. And Paul was he was not in a good mood. He was really kind of pissed. And, you know, he said that my integrity as a man and as an artist has been impugned, you know, and jerks like me were going to have to eat our words once the public got to see his fine film. And I was like, dude, I don't want it to suck. I'm an investor. I have no interest in this thing failing, right? So a couple hours later, I'm in a packed theater, 750 people. There's all this buzz. Maybe it's the vortices. I don't know. And Sedona has those, I guess. That's a joke for the Q folks out there. Wow. Anyway, the movie was a disaster. I mean, it was worse than anybody could have imagined. And the people, if I had to sum up the reaction of the crowd, the overwhelming reaction of the crowd, it was like a bewildered rage. They had paid $20 to get into this thing, and they really wanted their money back. And they had to vote. And there was one woman who was like, "Can I give it less than zero?" Really angry. So it was a disaster, really, really. And of course, I wrote the review that way. I even did a call with Channel 16 right after the viewing. Yeah, it's bad. We're not going to get our money back from this thing. You know, kiss that $500,000 away. It's never going to happen. So, and later on, Paulie really did not like that. And he says to me, he goes, "You gave me a terrible review. Why did you do that?" I said, "You made a terrible movie. Why did you do that?" So, you fast forward. So there was no, he couldn't sell the movie. Nobody would buy the movie. It's terrible. No one would buy it. So that seemed like it was going to be the end of it, but then the county commissioners, we prodded the county commissioners to sue into getting us a copy so that people here could at least see it. And we ended up getting a copy and premiered it at the Cultural Center, right? And this was the biggest night of my career. That's it, right? This is big. Because I had heard nonstop, Kelly's just a jerk. People were saying this all over town. Kelly's just a jerk. He hates everything. He's breaking Paulie's balls. It can't be as bad as Kelly says it is. It was worse. It was way worse. I don't even know how he did it. He recut the movie and made it worse. I couldn't believe it. And I was like the king of Scranton that night, walking out of the Cultural Center. It was like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, worst you ever seen, right? Yeah, right. Give me some love. And it was total vindication, right? And so that would have maybe been the end of my story. But here's the thing, and this is the reason I decided to tell this story tonight. Is a documentary filmmaker, recently reached out to me, and he wants to make a documentary about the trouble with Callie. Right. And like me, he believes that if we could somehow, renew interest in it and work out the marketing, we could find maybe a distributor, this thing could be a cult blockbuster. Right. Seriously, like The Room or Rocky Horror, something like that. I mean, seriously, consider this crowd. Can you guys see yourselves, paying money to sit in a dark theater and scream, "You are a mad cow in a monkey field," at just the right moment with like 200 of your friends? Yeah. So can I. Thank you.
Give it up for Chris Kelly one more time. All right. All seriousness, I want to welcome our next storyteller to the stage. She is an actress, an artist, a community advocate, an educator. She is a professor at Misericordia University and a wonderful human being. Please welcome to the stage, Alicia Nordstrom.
Hi, everybody. Is anyone else so excited to see human people? People, I'm also excited to wear real pants tonight. Yeah, I busted them out just for you guys. So full disclosure, I'm not from northeastern Pennsylvania. I am a Jersey girl who moved here in 2004. Oh, thank you. And with my husband, and we got teaching jobs at 2 local colleges. And when we first moved here, people said, "You have to go to Scranton because there's coffee shops and awesome restaurants and a great theater scene." And they had me at theater scene because I grew up watching plays, I grew up doing theater, and I had to check it out. So one group that really caught my eye, and I was like, I want to be part of that group, was the New Vintage Ensemble. Woo! And what I loved about that group was they were really innovative. They did original works, and they took classics like Hamlet and Pride and Prejudice, and they put a fresh spin and a new take on it. And so when I saw that they were doing the show Our Town, I was like, what are they gonna do with this? It's such a classic. I knew they were gonna do something exciting. So I auditioned, and I got cast in the show. And what I didn't know was that that show would change my life, and it would change the life of my son as well. So when I got the rehearsal schedule, I saw a problem, which was that my husband was teaching night classes 2 of the rehearsal days. So that meant I had to bring my son to the rehearsal. Now, my son, Levi, is now 13. Back then he was 10. And he's kind of like if Sheldon Cooper married Gandhi, and look like Harry Potter. That would be my son. And he's one of those like quirky kids on the spectrum who's like really lovable and fun and curious, but he is a talker. Like he talks to everybody, loves to meet new people. So when I was bringing him to this rehearsal, this 10-year-old coming to an Our Town rehearsal, I was like, I need some reinforcements. So I packed up water, a 7-ounce bag of popcorners, 2 devices, headsets, and I brought this big bag in, and we were ready to go. But as the cast came in, Levi wanted to interview every cast member. And it went something like this. Hi, Miss Kimmy. Hi, Levi. When's your birthday? May 31st. Oh, that's a day after mine. Yeah, I know. What's your favorite number? 72. What? He had only heard like 13, so he was like, 72. What's your least favorite number? I don't know if I've really thought of that before. Oh. So that's kind of how it went, and he interviewed every cast member, and by the time we were done, he knew everybody, and everyone knew him. So during the rehearsal, he'd put on his headphones, got his Nintendo, his phone, jazzing with his video games, but every so often he would look up and he'd watch what was going on. So we fast forward to the show. So we performed at the Scranton Cultural Center, which is like a grand Masonic castle. And we were on the 4th floor and in Shopland Hall, and there's these like big ceilings, beautiful room, this gorgeous balcony where the tech booth was. And so I was a little worried that Levi would get a little chatty during the show because he likes to ask questions and narrate and comment. So I asked the director if my husband and Levi could sit in the balcony by themselves with the tech group. And so they did. And so during the show, I see Levi peeking his face over the railing in the balcony. And when I came out for curtain call, I hear this voice echo from the rafters, I love you, Mom. Good job. You did it. So as a cast, we're already crying because it's the end of the show. And then everyone heard that, and then we're crying even more. And there's this line from the show that goes, does any human being ever realize life while they live it? And even though Our Town was written so long ago, that message is timeless, that our time with friends and family is so precious that we need to savor it and we need to really be in the moment. So in that moment, when I hear this voice coming from the ceiling, it was like this beam of light coming down into my heart because he was saying to me what I had always said to him. And it was like this moment that just stood still in time for me. And so Our Town wasn't just a show. It became the way that I wanted to live my life. And it gave me a theater family that was a family both on stage and off stage. And that family included Levi as well. And it inspired him to take the stage himself. And a year later, I got to sit in an audience and watch him perform and cheer for him, just like he did for me. And it's my dream one day that we get to be in a show together. And so it was through that experience that Scranton became my town and Levi's town, and together it became our town. Thank you.
I want to take a moment and thank every single person who made this night possible. I know it's getting chilly. I don't think it's going to get more cold. I want to thank our hosts at the Radisson. I want to thank our wonderful band. I want to thank ECTV. I want to thank Observe Scranton. We have one more storyteller for you. Then I'm going to tell a story. Judges, raise your hand for a moment, please. Judges, raise your hand. There they are. One of our board members from Scranton Fringe, Katie Michaels, and Elizabeth Bohan, my co-founder and managing director, one of the biggest unsung heroes of the festival, and Melissa from our board are going to be collecting your clipboards and tabulating your votes while I tell a story. We're going to invite Maria McDonald up to the stage at that time from the Center for Living City to say a last few words. We're going to announce the winner. They're going to win that beautiful trophy you see over there, and $50. Oh my God! In this man's pandemic? And then we're going to call it a night. But the bar is still open. Last call. Bar is still open. I didn't have anything prepared for our next guest because I truly, all cliches aside, do not believe they need an introduction. However, for the sake of argument, assuming you've been living under a rock in Northeast Pennsylvania for the last several years, I want to welcome someone who probably is the only human being in Northeast Pennsylvania who complains more than me and speaks truth to power much more eloquently and powerfully and brilliantly than I ever could. The founder and executive director of the incredible organization, the Black Scranton Project. You know her, you love her, you've seen her talking truth to power on WNEP numerous times. Please welcome Glynis Jones!
Hello. Wow. Thank you, Connor, for the great intro. And yes, we do. We talk trash all the time. Like, we have real eyes on NEPA. Also, shout out to Justin Pedro and your amazing jazz trio. I love you so much. I love Scranton Fringe always. You guys are my heart. Black Scranton forever, know us. You know, I thought, like, today, well, I've been thinking about this story for a little while, and the first thing I thought, though, was I need to wear an outfit where I can, like, slam dunk the StorySlam. So here we are, showing off, you know, so thank you. So let me just rewind. For those who don't know me, my name is Glynis Jones. I am the founder and CEO of the Black Scranton Project. Some people might know me as the Electric Lady. Some people might know me as the real Glen Coco. Some people might know me as Childish Gambino. Some people might know me when I'm in the investigative archive streets as Glendiana Jones. But tonight, you are getting to meet, for the very first time, she actually hasn't came out yet, Griot Glynis. She's gonna tell you a story today. And I'm very excited to tell this story today, and I aligned it perfectly because I needed to give this context by making an incredible announcement today. The Black Scranton Project will be opening our Center for Arts and Culture very soon. We got a fantastic donation from PNC Bank. They donated their former bank facility over in North Scranton. So the building is fire. It is an incredible place to be. So now that we know the location, I had to keep it a secret for like a month. Well, I had to keep it a secret for a long time, but I've had the property for a little while and I had to keep it a secret. But every day I would go to the Center for Art and Culture, the former bank, to do some work in there, you know, get it ready before the announcement, clean it up, and being excited and having a million things to do, I'd go in the morning time. So every morning, I'd come down Main Avenue, or if I had to stop at Lowe's, because that's like my second home now these days. I'm an electrician, a plumber now, we do so much, painter, everything. So I'm coming down Market Street coming from Dixon City, from Lowe's, and I noticed there is a police vehicle in, you know, our parking lot. Fine, because it used to be a, you know, it's a vacant property. So pay no attention to the officer there, do my thing, empty my things out of the car, go into the property, do what I have to do. And you know, as a person of color, when we see a police officer, it's always tense, like we don't really respond well, considering the city of Scranton, considering the state of America, considering we're still fighting for Black lives to matter, considering that the SPD already doesn't really like me like that for calling them out on racism and telling them that their Santa, secret Santa thing was dumb. So, you know, I already know they're not a fan of me, so I don't go out of my way to talk to the police unless I actually have to, which is never. So anyway, I'm doing my thing. The next day, same thing. I'm there in the morning, and I see this officer in the parking lot. So, as I do, I'm getting on, like, you know, talking to my friends on Snap, like, look at the cops in here. F the police. Like, why are they in my parking lot? Like, what should we do? And my girlfriend's like, you should tell them to leave. And I was like, oh, no. So I said, but maybe I'll like call the police department and ask them to leave, but like I'm not gonna do that, whatever. So I'm like Googling, like, can you tell the police to leave your private property? Is that okay? What states? States, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, can you ask the police to leave your property? You can do that. All right, perf. So I was like still nervous. I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, I'm just gonna call the department. And just to rewind a couple minutes, I had been sitting in the parking lot for about 25 minutes eating my Starbucks and drinking my triple grande soy latte. And I'm like, if I finish this latte and this officer's still here, I'm calling the department, letting them know. So I finished my drink and he was still there, so I called the department, not 911, I'm not dumb. So I was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know one of your officers are like on my property. And as I say that, he like drives out of my parking lot. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind, everything's good. And they hang up the phone. I was like, okay, fine, disrespectful. So do my thing, whatever, go back into the center, cleaning, having a good time, getting things together, excited, can't wait to tell you all. Day 3 rolls around, had to stop at Lowe's once again. Coming down Market Street, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that side of North Scranton. When you come down Market Street, you get the best view of the building. So I do it intentionally so I can just gloat in the success of my organization. And I can see the cop car in the parking lot. And I have to make a decision now because I'm ruled by the number of 3 and I cannot let things happen 3 times without me making a decision. And in my mind, while I'm at this light, I'm like, okay, so we're either gonna say something or you're not gonna say something. And if you say something, you need to prepare yourself. Yesterday, we can ask them to leave. So at this point, I'm like, okay, put your hands on the wheel, okay, make sure your window's just a little bit down. You're gonna do this. So the light changes, I'm getting ready to turn the little corner to go into the parking lot. I'm like, this could be your last day, or it could not be. So here we are, we're doing it. Are you doing it, sis? Lord, ancestors, please give me every bit of protection we have left in this world because I am scared. So I'm gripping the steering wheel as tight as I can to not look scared. Mind you, I have my Black Scranton Project hoodie on, like I'm ready, So I pull up to him in the parking lot, like his car here, my car here, hands where you can see them. I go, hey, officer. He's like, good morning. And I was like, uh-huh. So I just bought this property and it's gonna be a community center and I don't feel comfortable, nor does my community feel comfortable with police officers in our property. So can you leave? And he was like, oh my God, yeah, sure. My job's not to make you uncomfortable, like at all. Or my job's not to make you uncomfortable, like whatever, I won't be here anymore. The business across the street and the church next door likes when there's, police presence. And I said, since they asked you, maybe you can start being over there in the future. And he was like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, so great, that's great, you got this building. Like, what are you guys gonna do with it? I said, we're turning it into community center for the Black community. It's gonna be a really great space, and we don't feel comfortable with police presence. I'm shaking because I'm cold, but I was shaking like this, talking, shivering, like so scared I didn't want him to see. And he was like, all right, that's amazing. You won't ever see me again. Have a great day. And he like leaves the parking lot, and I'm like, okay. So in that moment, I was like so flushed, like I've never felt so scared. I'm sure you probably felt a similar emotion if you've ever skydived, if you've ever done something that was like risking it, like throwing yourself into something, but I never felt so scared, but then so accomplished after that. Like, I got out of the car and I was like, why didn't I record that? What the heck? Like, that's one thing now, unfortunately, it's like when Black folks encounter the police, we either have to record it or have someone there recording it or doing all these things like making sure your hands are on the wheel and Googling if it's okay to even ask the officers to leave your property, and me, all these things that I'm doing for Black Scranton in my community and knowing the police don't like me for calling them racist. So like that could have gone so many ways, and when I stepped out of my car, I felt so alive, and like really at that moment, I really truly felt like a community leader, and I just knew I would not be able to open this center without setting a precedence for my community as like, we need cooperation from the police, and we need to know like, I don't want you here. We don't want you here unless we need you. So I'm on a high. I call like my friends, I call my best friend Antonia, who's in the audience too. I'm like, sis, on FaceTime, you're never gonna guess what the f just happened. Like I was like, yo, like I'm unstoppable, bad bitch mode, Meg the Stallion out here, like you cannot touch me, unstoppable. What is life? I call my mom, I'm like, Mom, I know you're working, I know. Just give me 10 minutes, I just gotta tell you this one thing. So I'm so amped up, I'm in there cleaning, and I'm like, wow, we did this. Like, look at the world. Like, we can actually make community, we can have positive communications, and things can go the way we want to. So after being at the center all day, working really hard and doing all the stuff to get it prepared, I go home, take off my paint-covered clothes, and I pick my phone up and I open my laptop to like look at the news, see what's going on. And that day, Dante Wright was murdered by the police. And it literally just took all of that excitement out of my body, because it doesn't matter that this one instance happened. They're still taking our lives, like literally. To the police, Black lives don't matter, and we still have such a long way to go. And it kind of was a slap in the face and a reminder to be like, this is exciting, yes, and it's still important, and it still holds precedence, but there's still so much work to do. And you, Black woman, Black person, Black leader, be excited, but at the end of the day, there's still a target on your back. And I was very upset too, and I needed to write it all down in my journal. And one thing that kept bothering me is like, you didn't even think to record this, you know? Like, that was something that I was surprised about. Like, as much as I prepared myself for that moment, I was like, why didn't I record that? So when I got asked to do the Scranton Fringe after that day, I said, this is the way I can tell this story to a bunch of people and let them know how I felt. Let them know how we felt, and let the city know, like, we can actually create real community, and we can set the precedence for our communities. And I am so excited that I'm able to take Scranton to another level and have observed Scranton in a way to be able to make these things happen for all of us. So thank you guys so much. And I'm happy to be a change maker, something I've recently kind of came into. And yeah, Black Lives Matter, support Black Scranton, follow us on all social media. Please leave us a donation, because it's expensive to try and do this. So you can donate there, and that's all I have to say. So thank you so much, Connor. Thank you, everyone at Scranton Fringe. Thank you, Scranton.
Please give it up one more time for this founder and executive director of the Black Scranton Project, Liz Jones! So, this is the part of the night where the host tells a story. I need space. Thank you, Westside. Part of observing Scranton is honesty, right? As Glynis just proved to us. So I want to tell you a story from my high school years. Is my father, who's actually his 71st birthday is today. Shout out to Andy O'Brien. If you're still here, you know who this story is about, and I'm so sorry if you've never heard. There is someone who grew up across the street from me, a few years older, a little cooler. Tokyo Drift. I, in the 570, publicly have never told that story. ECTV, I already warned you, you cannot use this footage. I want to thank you all so much. Hey, observing is not always positive. Observing is not always positive. I want to welcome to the stage the executive director of the Living City and the person who put this whole event behind us. Please welcome to the stage, I'm giving you a lot of lead time, Maria McDonald! Any minute now, she's going to be coming to the stage.
Whoa, hi everyone. You can't see because there's these lights at you. I can't see anyone's faces. So this was incredible. Thank you, storytellers. What a wonderful night this was. Thank you all so very much. So I just want to say a few things. This is the end of, well, not really the end, it's still the beginning, but the culmination of a 5-day festival, Observe Scranton. Observe Scranton means we were looking at you this week, Scranton. And Observe Scranton is put on by the Center for the Living City, of which I am now the privileged executive director of. And the Center for the Living City was founded in conjunction with some wonderful people by our very own Jane Jacobs. Jane Jacobs is one of the foremost urban thinkers of the century. And Jane Jacobs grew up right here. I'm so tired. She grew up here in Scranton, Pennsylvania. She spent her first 21 years here, learning what it means to be a part of a community and learning what it means to be connected to one another. And we are just so grateful that we have got the opportunity to welcome her back home. She would have been 105 on May 4th, where we had our flag raising ceremony. And the Center for the Living City is now located here with us, in me and all of us in Scranton. We have actually 2 of the board members with us here. We just had another who just had to get out early, but we have Mary Newsom, the chair of our board from Charlotte, North Carolina here, over there. And we also have the incredible Roberta Brandis-Gratz, who was also a friend of Jane's. And when I was on the interview call and I saw Roberta on the Zoom screen, I thought I was going to faint. And I thought, how do you faint on Zoom? So I had the cord in my hand in case I was going to pretend I was going to pull the plug. I thought maybe we'd have a bad connection. She's been my hero, and now she's my friend. So there's so many people to thank, and the one really standout person that I need to thank is my very new friend, Mr. Connor Kelly O'Brien. I've been thinking about this all day because I knew I was going to have to say a few words, and I will make this as brief as I can. Who was Jane Jacobs? Jane Jacobs was everything that I see in Connor. Jane Jacobs was a friend. She believed in community. She believed in inclusion. She believed in diversity. She believed in connecting people to one another. She believed in taking care of one another. She believed in everything that I see in Connor, my very new friend. And I'm an architecture professor at Marywood University School of Architecture. I've been there, and that's all I've ever known. Now I have friends with the University of Scranton and UNC and the Fringe and Scranton Made and Glennis. We are designing you that community center. and I have so many people to thank, and I really the network and the welcoming and the warmth that we have felt coming here. I have to say this is Connor, and Connor, through your eyes and observing Scranton, has been the most wonderful gift that anyone could ever have. Thank you, my friend. Actually, and I met his father earlier, who told me that he was born with a clipboard in his hand. Okay, I'm done.
We're both vaccinated. Calm down. Okay, Q. Before I announce the winners, I have my little envelope, my folded paper that I'm going to open in a moment. I do want to mention at the end of the evening, Lara, where are you at? Lara, stand up. Lara is going to be holding a white box for donations. The money is going to the Center for Living City. This was not cheap. This entire week of programming, we are hoping to bring this festival back. I do want to mention something, a little personal. I find it very funny that Lackawanna County gave the Trouble with Cali $500,000, but, other organizations, okay. No, and I actually want to thank Mari McGuigan and Chris Calvey, the Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Department specifically. They had nothing to do with that. They are so supportive of arts and culture programming. I want to thank everyone here, and I want to point out something that I just thought of momentarily between me and Liz and Glynis and Maureen and Kristen and Tanya and Dan and Julie and Gus and Mr. Rinaldi and Maria and so many people, there is not always inherently a system that supports you. Thank you. There is not always inherently a built-in framework to work within. There is not always a roadmap. The sidewalk changes daily. And I feel that in the spirit of Jane Jacobs, one of her, I'm going to bastardize this quote, but one of my favorite quotes of hers is that a city is only truly thriving. Again, I'm really paraphrasing. A city is only truly thriving when it is made for everyone, by everyone. And we have such a beautiful power here in Scranton, and we talk about this at the Fringe Festival. There are cities in this state with Fringe Festivals much bigger than ours that are not nearly as supported, cultivated, and developed because there's so much red tape to cut through. And we in Scranton, the one thing we have going for us is that with the exception of the most recent presidential election, no one's paying attention. And that is the metaphor for America right now, right? We only have each other. You only have the person and the zip codes around you. So I strongly encourage you, please make a donation to the Center for the Living City. We have Jane Jacobs, one of our most famous undersung heroes, the organization she helped create with the wonderful people like Mary and Roberta and Maria who are living it on right now. We have it here. We have it right now. We have the Black Scranton Project creating an entire arts and cultural center in North Scranton. This is not Walmart, despite or Lowe's. This is not Walmart, despite what you might think. It cannot last without our support. Whether or not you make a donation tonight to the Center for Living City, I challenge you, make a donation if you are able, $5, $10. Some of you can afford much more. To organizations that you believe in, whether it be Fringe, the Center for the Living City, the Black Scranton Project, the Scranton Cultural Center, architecture, whatever it is, that's your choice. I respect that. Please make a donation because it cannot last without your support. I'm done. Okay. Okay. Shut up. I'm allowed to. We have a tie for second place that the judges felt was important to mention. They specifically said all the storytellers were wonderful, but ... The tie for second place, hold your applause, is between Christopher Kelly and our wild card, Monica Simon. Well deserved. And the winner of the 2021 Observe Scranton / Scranton Fringe / Radisson Hotel / Center for the Living City StorySlam is, and the person who was walking home with this beautiful trophy with Jane Jacobs' picture fixed to it and $50. $50? To help support their new arts and culture center is Glynis Johns. Please come to the stage. Please give it up for the winner, Glynis Johns. Do you have a few quick words to say? A few quick words.
Wow, today's turning out to be a fabulous day. So thank you guys. I really wanted somebody else to win, but I appreciate it so much. What is my award speech today? Thank you guys again. I am just so excited that we were able to bring together community through the Black Scranton Project. I say this all the time that, and like Amber said, like I tried to get away from Scranton and it just pulled me right back here, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, to be honest, and I'm just very excited to start a whole new chapter and legacy for the Black community out here, and it's just cool. So thank you guys all for being a part of that. So
thank you to Glynis M. Johns, the winner of the Scranton StorySlam. Give her a round of applause. The bar is open. drink, wear your mask, go make a donation. Please, 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 thank you. This is the end of the Observe Scranton Festival 2021. Have a good night.